Hello, everyone. This is Mr. Honeyhead. Today, we're going to be talking about the physical changes related to adolescence. So, as we move in, this is going to be the first thing we're going to adjust. Very short, very simple, very and easy. Probably going to be the simplest of the six lenses of which we look at teenage development. And then, we're just going to go through. So, you got a set of notes. I'm going to take them and we're going to continue along. So, what exactly is adolescence? This is the transformation between child to adult, and one of the biggest, excuse me, one of the most notable stages within adolescence. One of the most telling signs is puberty, which is the stage of development marked by the following: oftentimes growth spurts as well as sexual maturation. So, on tests and quizzes, you will see that adolescence and puberty sometimes gets thrown interchangeably. Adolescence is a time. Adolescence is a time that is focused more about becoming an adult. Puberty is more focused around the changes that happen in the body, such as these growth spurts and the sexual maturation. So puberty basically happens because of the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland basically releases hormones, and what happens is, as these hormones get released, it begins regulating your growth and causing people to go through these changes. And basically, these hormones are chemicals that go throughout the body and they cause these types of changes and development. All right. And typically, this starts for females around 10 to 12, and then for males, it typically starts around 12 to 14, and then it continues along for um, in some cases many years. There have been studies that shown that men actually do not quit growing until the age of 25. So you can have gentlemen that, for example, they'll graduate high school, they'll go off to college, and then they'll come back after 2 years and they look taller than they were and everything else. And it's because, once again, this process can last very long. So, what we're seeing within these growth spurts specifically is a rapid growth in both height and weight. So, a lot of times people will tack on 3 to 4 inches of height. They will see increased fatty tissue in females as well as increased muscle mass in males. And a lot of times this can be very complicated for people and make them feel a certain type of way because as you're growing, yes, it may be nice to feel like you're getting stronger. It may be nice to feel like you're developing in such a way. But a lot of times people look at that number on the scale and they see it go up and up and up and they focus on the number and they realize, like, oh my Lord, I'm gaining so much weight. This is terrible. This is terrible. And a lot of times people don't like that. But, it is natural for people to gain weight in both fat and muscle as they go through these physical changes. Um, the other big thing that happens in this is a lot of times you will see extremities that will grow to adult size. And this is one of the phrases that people talk about with teenagers or preteens being all arms and legs, because literally their arms and their legs grow to adult size while the rest of their body is, not the adult size, which causes clumsiness and things of that nature. And this uneven growth rate is known as being asynchronous or known as asynchrony. So, along with bone growth and muscle growth, there can be experiences of growing pains because the bones tend to grow faster than the muscles, which can be very limiting to a lot of people. So, you can have athletes that were able to do all these crazy stunts and be able to do these crazy feats of athleticism, and then once they hit puberty, they're wondering why they're having such a hard time doing it. Is because their bones grow and it becomes heavier and their muscles have not caught up to that, so their muscles can't keep up with the growth of their bones and their body cannot adjust to doing the things that they used to do. And once again, this is where puberty can be a rather awkward stage for a lot of people because they feel that, oh, this is just a terrible time because they're not able to do what they once were able to do. They're a little bit clumsy, everything's changing, and so it's just one of those things. It's a natural process for everyone. And it's important that we talk to younger kids as they begin this process of what they can expect and just understand that it's natural. So physical changes for females, obviously we have their hips are going to widen, breast enlarge, the body fat around these areas um, tend to end up being deposited. And so you'll start seeing body fat in these areas, and there's also growth in body hair. And then another big thing is that menstruation occurs. So women will begin having their time of the month. And then, just even though we hear a lot about it with mostly men, women also will have their voices deepen as well. And then they will typically reach their full adult height around 17 years old. Example of Emma Watson when she first started Harry Potter back on the day with the Sorcerer's Stone. As you can see, she has gone through many different changes over the years. And, it's one of those things that, unfortunately, with a lot of these child stars, and we'll talk about it also on the male side as well, they go through these things and they're under a microscope of Hollywood and the press. And people talk about how, they're going through these changes, and it's one of those things that you see what is happening. So a lot of times this can cause a lot of women especially to feel uncomfortable because extra body fat during development can lead to females feeling uncomfortable about their weight. Once again, there unfortunately is a lot of not stereotypes, but there's a lot of you know norms that society wants to push on about ideal bodies, ideal weight, and that they focus on the number of the scales. And a lot of times, this can lead to a lot of people feeling uncomfortable, and women especially. And this is often where we end up seeing, unfortunately, teenage girls developing things like eating disorders, which is extremely unhealthy. So it's very important to recognize that if someone is feeling a certain way and they don't understand what's going on and they're not accepting of these changes, that there are people that they're there to support and talk about this kind of stuff. Is that most women do feel comfortable with the changes of their body towards the end of puberty, but the feelings of, once again, self-consciousness by not meeting cultural expectations still occur. So a lot of times as we go towards the end of puberty, they feel like, okay, we're to the end of this. I'm feeling comfortable in my own skin. But once again, there is always that societal expectation. Now, for males, typically there's going to be, once again, body hair and hair growth in areas that are typically covered. And then also you're going to be running into facial hair, which is mentioned down here as well. The voice will typically deepen, and it's um, very much more of an extreme case for males than females. So this can often lead to cracking or what is known as an octave change, where you'll start like way up here, and then you'll be like way down. So, it cracks and it octave changes. And then once again, you do have the development of the shoulders and the chest broadening as well. And one of the big things, even though it's not mentioned here, is that just as women will go through their and begin their time of the month and go through menstruation, males have their own like sexual development as well, where they are now able to produce sperm. So those are two, areas of both male and female that, um, call in through puberty as well. So here we have the guy that played Neville Longbottom. As he was younger, you see he's obviously, definitely gone through that process of growing up. And, just as with Emma Watson, he had to go through that process and going through that through puberty. And then also within that, obviously was subject to scrutiny and things of that nature. So this is your assignments for today. So that's your notes, very easy. So we have what's called the young man and the young woman letters. So what this is basically an assignment where you are going to be basically writing a letter to a young man, a young woman. It could be someone in your life, maybe like a young niece, a nephew, a little brother or sister, or just someone in general. And you're basically going to write about these things that you have now learned about. Write a letter to them explaining to them, like, hey, this is natural, this is all good. And, imparting that advice onto them that you now know. Once again, it's important to be appropriate in all of this. So please make sure to, keep it clean. And then also there is an assignment known as the case of popping. One of the biggest things that happens within adolescence is pimple popping. It is big. Adolescence, acne, the whole 9 yards. So what's going to happen is there's an article that's called The Case of Popping. You're just going to read through the article and kind of look at it and just kind of analyze it and then just answer the question. So those are the assignments for today. So go ahead and get those taken care of, and I'll see you guys tomorrow.